restore, renew, reconnect, live, laugh, in love, connections, dreams, getaway experiences. Brave Heart Workshops. Unique getaways live with Jill Reynolds.
The Connection Show, Renew, Restore, and Reconnecting Community, sponsored by Brave Heart Workshops live with Jill Reynolds. And joining me today is Dr. Michaela Turner from St. Louis. Hi, Michaela. How are you today?
Hello, Jill. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Well, we're so grateful you came on to the show so the audience gets to know a little bit about you. I'd love to read Michaela's bio. Michaela Turner is an organizational psychologist and an inventor. Looking at the environment as a source for mindfulness, Dr. Michaela invented the mindfulness-based intervention tool for use in organizations and classroom environments. She also created and studied the Daddy Rocks game, a playful hide-and-seek mindful fathering game that honors dad's dispositional need for independence, capability, self-reliance, and privacy. In this hide-and-seek game, the mindfulness experience is the vehicle dads use to notice and discover where their children may need help. A certified elementary education teacher and a YogaKids international teacher and trainer, Dr. Michaela consults with individuals, families, and businesses on how to place meaningful mindfulness cues in the environment and then use them as the cause to pause and notice. So what a wonderful bio, Michaela, and I'd love for the audience to know a little bit about your journey of how you got into education and then moved into your different roles. If you can take us on that journey.
Oh, I sure can. The fact that I got into education was an accident because I had wanted to major in speech pathology. And my counselor said if I majored in education and minored in speech pathology, I would be certified in both. And I wasn't. And so it was a complete accident that I ended up in the classroom. And, I had wanted to be a movie star, and my mother was horrified. But as a teacher, I kind of got to be a movie star with all these young children that I formed a relationship with. So I went into the teaching profession. And then before I had my own children, I got into the business world because I wanted to be out of the classroom while I took care of my own children. And after about 10 to 15 years of that, I went back into the teaching profession, and I was a much better teacher having been a parent by then.
Mm-hmm.
And I started off in the public schools, and then I transferred to the private schools, where I got a do-over earlier than most because, we have regrets when we're bringing up our own children. And by the time I got back into the education profession in first grade, I had these ideas about the mindfulness-based intervention tools because I was so tired of talking. I could not say it another time. One day I said, shh, and sit at the same time. And so I had to come up with something so that I could remain calm.
Well, I
came up with the tools.
And I can relate to that of trying to be calm as a teacher when you are exasperated with a classroom. I just for a very short stint did some preschool, like, I don't know if I'd even call myself teaching. You're more like a preschool babysitter. And I remember one day I got exasperated and out came a swear word, like an S word or something. And they fired me. And I was like so embarrassed because I was like, oh, the kids just drove me crazy today and I just slipped, But I don't know how teachers can do it where when they do get exasperated, where they don't blow their cool.
Well, it's learning by fire, actually. We learn what doesn't work, we stumble upon what does work, and then we continue to go with that. And with experience, we learn to interact with the children. And then finally, at the end of my teaching career, at least, I learned that it's best if I just be quiet when I'm in the classroom. Just give them jobs to do, let them do it. I'm the safekeeper. I'm the corraler. I throw out information, I get out of the way and let them do it themselves. They can go so much further and faster than I could take them. That's what we finally learned, that teaching is all about listening and being quiet.
And you've learned some tools along the way that you've kind of created in that classroom. So as you were going through these classrooms and the children wouldn't listen, what types of ways did you start to get them to be better listeners and better participants in the classroom?
Well, it was springtime during that particular school year. It was March, and I still had not gotten control of the classroom the way that I wanted. And it was inspirational. It must have just come from the Holy Spirit is all I can think of. And I thought, they've got to see the messages with their eyes. Maybe they're not listening. Maybe if they see it. And so I just, took some cardboard paper, put it together in a flipping motion, and then I just made up these signs. And this is what I did, good job, and then sit. And I used it the next day, and they were jaw-droppingly effective. I had control of the classroom the next day. And so then what happened is the children got motivated to make their own signs. So now they're motivated to write, to find out how to spell words, to how to sound them out, and how to use them. And that was part of it too, because this equalized the power structure in the classroom. When the power was in the sign. So if one child flipped the sign to me, I had to do what the sign said. If it said quiet, please, I got quiet. If it said sit, I sat. And then it was a game. And then we have interaction, and then all of the learning is occurring.
So then the students felt like they were participating in their own teaching process.
Yes, and taking control and being capable as they saw fit, leading us in the morning routines of going through the alphabet, counting our numbers by 10s and 20s and backwards and twos and odds and evens. They led it. I taught them how to do it, and then they led on their own. Very little. There was one time, very little time standing at the front of the classroom giving instructions. Very little time doing that. So I was the guide by the side, not the sage on the stage. And there was this one idea about using a hat. And because this was in a kindergarten classroom toward the end of my career, when I used the hat as the instruction hat. And they're 5 and 6-year-olds. And instead of saying, clapping, trying to get their attention, yelling, whatever, which they're not listening anyway, I introduced the hat as a game. And then we practiced a couple of times that whenever I put the hat on my head, it meant that I'm going to give instructions. And it's important for everyone to be quiet. And so after we practiced it, and I'm going around the classroom, I'm getting ready to start a new lesson, I just stood at the front, put the hat on, and the children shushed each other. She's got the hat on, everybody. She's going to give instructions. Be quiet. Be quiet.
They didn't want to miss those instructions.
Yes. Well, they wanted to please me too.
Mhm.
And it's so much fun to do what the hat says. It's like a game.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
a game.
Yeah, when children can be taught with games and visualization, it's so much different than words.
Very much different than words.
Mm-hmm. And so, what other tools did you implement, if any, then?
Pardon me. Yes, pardon me for just one moment. I'm getting the bears. So this was a great way, and it's for families. I'm thinking it's a great way, especially when children are young, and to implement it as a weekly ritual that continues throughout the lifetime. Every Friday night, every Saturday night, it's mom and dad, the kids at the dinner table. And with the young child, using the bears. This is the I wish bear. This is the I'm happy about bear. And this is the I am sad about or mad about bear. So then passing it to the children, we get to find out what they're thinking and feeling at least once a week. They're very honest with the bears. They're very honest with the bears. I find out things from the children that I don't think I could have found out had I not had the bears.
So you would use this in the classroom once a week with the children sharing which bear which bear represents you this week?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the sadness.
And I wish I'm sad about or mad about, like I'm really mad at my mom, or I'm happy about I got a new puppy. I wish my dad wouldn't let me make my own lunch, something like that.
Yeah.
To know those simple things.
And they really enjoyed this exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They really enjoyed the exercise. Another one, and this was very, very helpful to me and the children, it's called the time machine.
Okay.
And it's a sign underneath a clock. And the sign says time machine, and there are Christmas lights that hang underneath the sign. And whenever I make a mistake, whenever I yelled or got short with a child, or if a child pushed somebody else and they fell down, we would yell, time machine, which is a do-over. Mm-hmm. Turn the hands of the clock backwards in time. Each child had their own job. One to plug in the lights, another to turn the hands back in time. And then we would do over the incident in the way that we wanted it to have gone.
So kind of like Groundhog's Day.
Yes. And for me, for children, they need the skills. I need to tell them, here's what you say, here's what you do. And then they just repeat me so that they can get it into their subconscious mind. And then they know how to take care of themselves.
And they were learning how to tell time at the same time. So it had a couple of different qualities to the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, and then of course there's gibberish. Because children from the moment they're born, they're watching our body language. And where parents and teachers get into trouble is the body language does not match our words. Mm-hmm. And the children are responding to the body language. Mm-hmm. So if mom stands at the door and says, I want you to pick up all the toys in your room right now, and the child is looking at mom, and mom continues to stand there, the child's not going to be in action. But if mom leaves, disengages right away, then the child is left to follow mom's behavior, which is she's not paying attention to me anymore. I can pick up my toys. Okay. So then I use gibberish instead of words. So it was, and it happened in the kindergarten because this was the very first time that I was using gibberish in the classroom. And they're 5 years old, and I told them at the very beginning of the school, this is what you do. I want you to come into, and you have to be very concrete with children. I want you to come into the classroom, hang up your backpacks, take out everything that you need for the day, and pull out your journals and begin working. Now, what did I just say? And they go, oh. Mm. So the next day, I did it in gibberish and I acted the entire thing out. What did I just say? You said we're supposed to go inside and hang up our backpacks and get everything out that we need for the day and then sit and work in our journals. I was shocked. That easy. That easy.
And you know,
So
it's funny. I can't remember where I heard this. It was just recently, but I heard it somewhere that the person would, where did I hear this? I'm going blank. The person would give, I think, to his employees and say something like, I want you to all go in the locker room and change now. And they didn't respect the coach. They didn't want to listen to him at all. But if the coach then changed his dialogue and said, I'd like for all of you to go into the locker room right now and change your clothes, because what we'd like to do next is get on the field and practice our drills so that we could be better prepared to win the game this Sunday. So when he was giving just orders, they tune him out and they didn't respect him, have no respect. The moment he gave the orders with a description of why they should do it, their whole persona changed. They wanted to know why they were told to go do something instead of just saying to a child, go to your room and make your bed.
right.
Okay. But if you were to say, I'd like you to go to your room and make your bed and keep it orderly and neat so that tonight when you come home from school and you're ready to go to sleep, your sheets will be so much more comfortable and you'll enjoy so much more to jump in that bed and have it so organized and ready to help you fall asleep for a great night's sleep. So please go to your room now and let's get it organized. You know, whole different concept than go to your room and make your bed. You know, so
except if the child is 2 or 3.
Well, yes, but I'm just saying.
Older.
Yeah.
It's less words, you know.
Yeah.
Work more, talk less.
Work more, talk less. And so what other little objects did you have for the classroom? I had one that I remembered, the can.
Oh, yes. I use them as pencil holders. A can. A can. So we have the I can. And I use this in the first grade because children believe what we tell them. If we tell them that, you know what, if you can't figure something out, just go to my desk and hold the I can. Take it back to your desk. And then you'll be able to figure it out because you're saying, and then they'd say it, I can. And it always worked. It always worked.
I love that description. I have a mentally handicapped stepson who's at 50 now. And he loves superheroes. And at one period, several years back, he was possibly going to transition into Scylla living, more of an independent living environment. He wasn't able to do it, but one of the things that his caseworkers would say to him, Jason, will you try to do this? Or will you do this? And Jason might say, well, I'll try. And so this one particular day that he said, well, I'll try. He was sitting down in his chair, and he's very unstable. He has a seizure disorder. So as he sat down in his chair and he said, I'll try, I said, Jason, would you stand up? And he went to stand up. And as he did, I said to him, will you do this for staff this week? And he said, I'll try. And gently, I pushed him back in his chair. Mm-hmm. And I said, Jason, would you get up and do this week what the staff said? And he said, I'll try. And I pushed him back gently down. And he says, Jill, why do you keep doing that? And I says, well, because you keep saying, I'll try. And so what would it be like if when I said, Jason, will you do this? And you stood up strong and said, yes, I will. And let me see if you can stand up. So I tried it again, and he stood up and said he would. And I says, now look at how strong you are that you didn't fall back in your chair. And so I showed him that by saying, I'll try, the likeliness is you'll fall back down and you won't get it done.
Right. You're pointing to the precision of language. Mm-hmm. It has us be in relationship with ourselves in a different way. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that old fallacy of saying, I'll try, I'll try, I'll try. I go, well, if you just keep trying, the likeliness of success is probably going to be minuscule. But if you say to yourself, I will do it, like I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. And sure,
I can.
Yeah, and there may be some failures along the way, but you know what? The I can do it. And if I make a mistake, I can try again, or I not even try. I will do it again. I'll
do it again.
Do it the next time. I'll do it the next time or whatever. But even getting just that word try out. So some of those tools, I think, like you said, it's all dependent on age. When my son was younger, I did different modalities of discipline with him. And as
really?
Oh, yeah. I had done different modalities. So from the time he was, like, say, 2-ish till he was, I want to say, about, 7-ish. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be parents on here that are going to go, I can't believe you did that. I did the wooden spoon. And so if I gave my son direction and he didn't do it, I then would repeat. I said, what did mommy just ask you to do? And he might say, you told me I shouldn't pick this up because it could hurt me. And I said, and so when I said to do that, and then you went to do it, is that what you're supposed to do? And he said, no. And I said, so you're not going to do it, are you? And he goes, no. And then 2 minutes later, he'd do it. And I said, and he was a very strong-willed child. I says, okay, mommy gave you directions. You understood the directions, and you decided you were still going to disobey. So mom has to go now to the kitchen and get the spoon. And I need to spank you. Mom, please don't spank me. I promise I won't do it again. And I'd go get the spoon, and I'd put him over my lap, and I'd go like this, barely touching him. He'd be crying. I'm so sorry. And I said, you promise you won't do that again because it's going to hurt you. Okay. And so I did the wooden spoon. Now I heard from a very famous psychologist, Dr. James Dobson, that if you're utilizing is something for spankings, it should never be your hand, because your hand is a representation of love and holding someone and touching them and hugging them. But an object, an external object, they know that that's not your hand and that you still are extending love through the discipline. And so I utilized the spoon and I swore by it. It works. And then afterwards, after I spanked him, I would have him stand up and I'd give him a hug and tell him how much I loved him and thank him for understanding the rules. So when he was younger, it was the spoon. And then it switched into logical, natural consequences. So the
Natural consequences.
the natural consequences were if he was going to school and he forgot his lunch. The natural consequences was I wasn't going to drive to school and give him his lunch.
That's
He
right.
was naturally going to have to feel hunger pains so that he would remember his lunch. And
Oh, yeah.
drives me crazy. These parents will, drive to school
Well,
and constantly.
here is, before you go on to the next one, how you disciplined him. The parents nowadays do not understand that following through with discipline hurts us more than it hurts them. And I understand why they don't follow through, because it's going to hurt them too much.
Mhm.
But we have to be willing to feel the pain of following through with the discipline.
Yeah.
With the natural consequences, letting him starve through lunch. He won't forget it tomorrow.
Right, and he's not going to die. It's not going to kill him, or at least they forget their coat, and they might have to walk home in the cold. Okay, well, I guess next time he'll remember his coat. It's just it's natural consequences. So I did natural consequences from about 7 to probably, I don't know, 10, 12, somewhere around there. And then I moved into logical consequences. And logical consequences allowed him then to be involved. And so that one was a bowl or a jar, whichever you prefer, and having your child sit down and write out about 10 to 15 logical consequences, from being very minor logical consequence to very extreme. So very minor might be, you don't follow the directions of what you're told and you have to wash dishes tonight. Major consequences are you're grounded for a whole month. You can't go out, you can't talk to your friends, you can't do anything for a whole month. And so we wrapped these little pieces of paper and threw them in a bowl. And he learned that when he did not obey whatever he needed, he had to pick something from the bowl. But the thing that was so great about it, he could do something as simple as sass back at me or swear at me or something like that. And he'd have to pick out a logical consequence. And it may be that his consequence that he got for talking back was he was grounded for a month. And he'd be, Mom, that's not fair. And I says, well, I didn't pick it. You put your hand in and you picked it. The next one might be he stayed out 3 hours past his curfew, and he picks out a consequence, and he's got to wash dishes for the night. So, he never knew what he was going to get. So he had to realize if you do not follow directions and the rules of the home, you're going to pick out a consequence, and we don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be one. And he started to learn, I better start to listen to what the rules are. So, and that brings me to, because you dealt with kindergarten, smaller children. But I think like transitioning, even with these word pictures, with children who are getting older, I think it's imperative for parents to realize that you can still do certain types of word pictures for the children as they start to get older. And what I find today more than ever, Michaela, is parents who are afraid, it seems like, to discipline their children, and how the kids are rolling the house.
It's because of the pain it's going to cause them. When I was substitute teaching in this inner city school, and it was inner city boys, and I had this one classroom, they were probably sixth grade, maybe 7th grade, and there was this young man, he kept acting up. This was just 5 years ago, And I kept telling him, I don't want to send you to the principal's office. It's going to hurt me more than it hurts you. Please stop what you're doing. And all of the other children were saying, do it, Ms. Turner, do it. I finally had to, and I finally understood why parents do not follow through, because they don't understand it's going to hurt them as much as it hurts or more than the child that they're disciplining, and they just have to be willing to bite the bullet and feel the pain.
But their parents are losing hold of their kids today. And I mean, I saw this firsthand. My son was a really good kid, I really believe. He really did well growing up. But he pushed the limit as many times as he could. And at one point, he really had a meltdown. He was really angry. And one day he took his anger and broke down his bedroom door in his anger. And I went to call 911 when he did it. And the man who answered 911, he said, I'll send the police. And I said, oh, never mind. It's going to be okay. Well, the caller ID showed our name.
Right.
And he recognized
anyway.
He recognized my name, and he knew that my son was in the same class as his daughter. And so he said, I think this will really help you. Let me do it. So I did. And the police came and saw the door and said, I really think that you need to come with us and get a psychiatric evaluation because your anger is out of control. And he said, you could either ride with your mom or ride with us in the police car. So we went and got an evaluation. And I had to do one of
Who did he ride with?
Me.
You?
He rode with me.
Okay.
And I had to do one of the toughest things I've ever had to do as a mom, and that was admit him in psychiatric. But they only give you this was back years ago, they only gave you on your insurance 5 days to stabilize a teenager in a psych ward. And so by doing this, the two psychiatrists said, and this is part of your word game, so this is imperative for parents to know. The two psychiatrists said, in order for this to take for your child to turn the corner, you have to make a decision right now to be on our team. And we are going to play good therapist and bad. The good therapist is going to tell in front of your son that we're giving you a chance to get better so that he can come back home. The bad therapist is going to tell him he's crossed the line and that you have signed off paperwork to put him in juvie, and that he's never allowed to come home, and that the only thing you're going to give him is a pair of shoes, a pair of pants, a coat, and that he will not be able to see his relatives, his grandfather, or anyone till he's 18. And he was like, I think at this time, 15. And he said, you have to be able to tell him this, that you're signing off and not allowing him to come home anymore because of what he did. And if you can't handle this, there's a likeliness his anger is going to exasperate to the point that it can injure himself or others. So it was very hard, Michaela, and so I had to do it, and I had to play that role, and he was so angry. His rage was out of control. And because he was a minor, they had to give him permission when he wanted to call home because they were going to keep him in psych for 5 days. And so about the second night, he called and wanted to talk to me. And the therapist said, when the staff calls, tell them I don't want to talk to him. Refuse his phone calls. Do not accept the calls. I literally did not sleep one iota for 5 days.
I was going to ask you, when did you cry after you left the first
every
time?
day and night. And the other thing I forgot to tell them, it was asthmatic, and I forgot to leave his inhaler, and he started having asthma attacks. He was so stressed. So by the 5th day, he wrote the most loving, apologetic letter and spelled out everything he'd been doing wrong at home. And he begged me to forgive him and come home. Now, when he did this, they told me that I had to play up for at least 30 minutes that I still wasn't going to let him come home. And he's crying and crying. Finally, they switched and said, okay, I guess we'll give him another chance. You can come home. And it was so hard. So what you're saying, like the word pictures and him being able to see and take in
Mhm.
that your actions have consequences. And if we don't
Yes.
nip this in the butt, those actions could have actually been lifelong of being in jail or in a juvie hall for the rest of his life, because he went after me with a baseball bat. He was really filled with anger. And he changed everything around, turned it all around. But it was hard. Parenting is very hard.
Very, very hard. And good for you for allowing yourself to go through your own suffering in order to do that, because that's what it took to straighten him out.
Yeah.
It hurts us more than it hurts them.
Yeah. It really,
That's what parenting is.
It
It's
really
not
is.
about how we feel. Yes, we got to follow through. We got to do the hard things.
Yeah.
And cry.
And parents forget that their role as a parent is to parent, not be best friends. I had a really wise therapist one day who put on a whiteboard. She wrote on a whiteboard the letter P and C and then A and A. And she said, when we have children, it's imperative for parents to know that from birth till 18, they must be in a parent to child relationship. And as soon as they turn 18, it's imperative to change that relationship to an adult to an adult. And you start to then teach your children at 18, they're an adult, and you take that time of parenting and teaching them to get to a level so that when they turn 18, they have now become an adult and their wings are free to leave the nest. And so many parents today do not gently push them out of the nest at 18, and they coddle them. And I heard all this on James Dobson. So when it was my turn, of course, mine went away to college. But when he graduated college, he called me and he was like, now what, 23-ish, and says, Mom, can I come home? And I says, well, first, honey, I have to let you know, when you went to college, you left home. And so now that you're exiting college, you're not coming home because this is no longer your home. So you can come back and stay at my home for 90 days. But after 90 days, you will be on your own. He goes, 90 days? I said, yep, we have a plan. And so I implemented a plan. And my plan was that every morning he would get up, put his suit on, come down to the kitchen table for 8 hours, look for work, go on interviews, and within 3 days he had his first job. Then I taught him how to, the next 30 days, how to take whatever he earned to pay bills that I had been paying, and the next and the next. So by the 90th day, he knew what a budget looked like, and he knew how much money he needed to be on his own, and he's never looked back.
Wow. Wow. How did you know to do that?
You know, again, I just remember hearing James Dobson say that it's imperative that parents have their children leave the nest at 18, never to return. So I knew that I had that in my mind. And one thing I did that parents, I think it's really smart if they're sending their kids to college and if they're supporting them. And I supported my son. So when he went off to college, I gave him a Visa credit card and had him put all of his expenses on his credit card. I put his cell phone, his car insurance, had him put his gasoline, his groceries, everything I could, I put on one credit card, and every month I paid it off. So by the time he graduated 4.5 years later, he had an 850 credit score. And,
wow.
And it was in his name. And so when he left home, when he was getting ready to leave home, I put a whole budget together and showed him, because I had kept records. This is what your cell phone bill is. This is what you spend in gasoline. This is your car insurance. And it was all on a spreadsheet so that he knew. And so as he got his paychecks, he paid he gave me in an envelope enough money to pay for each of those things that I had been paying for. And so he then could see what was remaining that he could afford for gas, electricity, and housing.
Mm-hmm.
And so he knew this. So he knew that the only way he could leave home is to have a place with 3 other guys. He had to split an apartment with 4 guys to be able to be independent. And so it worked. And of course, the end of the story is he became a financial advisor, and now he manages everybody's money, and he's debt free. So it paid off.
Oh, it sure did.
So moving into transition, then you're in the classroom with these lovely little kindergartners, and they're just flourishing, and you're responsive. And so, which direction did you go next with your career?
Well, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. So I had the plan to continue to teach all the way until I was going to retire. And then the reorganization of the St. Louis Archdiocese occurred. And one by one, my schools closed. So the first one that I'd been there for a number of years, then the next one, it downsized. The next one, it ended up closing. After that, I was done. It was too hard to work. Every first year, there's too much to learn. So by that time, I was certified in yoga, and I decided, you know what, I'm just going to try and get yoga for children. Well, yoga for children off the ground because I had just gotten certified, and I really wanted to teach teenagers because they like to get the chatter out of their minds, and they prefer meditation. So they'll meditate only, or they'll do their yoga and then meditate. That's their favorite part. But the only market that responded was the toddler market. Parents wanted something to do with their children where the children could get playmates. They could be prepared for preschool, and parents got a month or 2 of relaxation. And so that's how the toddler yoga took off. And I went from private studio, or participated in many private studios. I had my own studio, and then going to after school programs to teach the yoga after that. And then I went into libraries where it was free for parents, and I still got paid because the library took care of me. And the children came and enjoyed themselves, and parents really liked learning about the mindfulness-based intervention tools. They would see them work with me, and then some parents chose to use them on their own. However, there was only mothers came to the toddler yoga classes at the library. Men didn't come. And I was working on my dissertation at that particular time, and looking at seeking help. Men will not seek help. Men think asking for help is weak. They don't want to do it. And they like being capable and knowing their what they should do, trusting themselves. And so if they won't ask for help, and the reason why this is important is because of the school shootings, children being bullied, others killing themselves because they're being bullied. They can't handle whatever, and parents are not noticing. And so if dads won't ask for help so that the children can get the help, if dad just notices, will they share help? And that's how I came up with the Daddy Rocks game, where dad does not have to ask for help. Let me grab a couple of rocks. Oh. Apologize, my alarm. Rocks. And I give 2 to each dad. It comes in a box. Not yet, but that's the manufacturing idea. It comes in a box, 2 rocks. One to play the hide and seek game with the children, and the other to share with another dad. And the children, after introducing the game to the children, the dad tells them that you're going to hide the rock where I'm going to find it. And when I find it, I'm going to wake up to the moment. I'm going to see what my eyes see, hear what my ears hear, smell what my nose smells, feel what my fingers touch, taste what my tongue tastes for however long I do it. And then I'm going to put it back for you children to hide again. And so, because I studied this, I got feedback from some dads. And one dad said he was being short with his son because he needed to get to work, just walk upstairs and get to work. And he saw the rock out of the corner of his eye. And he turned right around to give his son, who was 9 years old, the attention that he needed. And another dad said that he and his son talked about the rock while they were driving. So it became a topic of conversation. Another son used the rock to get his dad's attention by placing it right in front of him and saying, "You couldn't find it, remember?" And the dad got it. He's saying this to say, "Look at me." And so that's what the dad did. It's the tiniest shifts in the environment that make the biggest difference. Malcolm Gladwell said in Tipping Point, the tiniest shifts. And so that's what we're doing, just having dad notice. And then what he notices, he's got his extra rock. Part of the game is you share the rock with one other dad when you have a story to tell. And then you teach the dad how to play the game. And then that's how men who are becoming dads, who are the caretakers and the nurturers of the children, they may or may not be the breadwinners, but transitioning into the caretaking and the nurturing requires new skills that are within dad. And really all it takes is a cause for a pause to check in and just notice what's going on in the environment and the changes it takes. I mean, I'm sure you didn't even consider your own training of your son in how to keep his books balanced, that it would lead to him becoming a financial advisor when you were teaching him this.
Yeah. And
Just the tiniest thing caused his career path.
Yeah, and the funny part of the story, and it is funny, it's sad more than funny, is at that point I was let me see, at the time, when he graduated, I was married then. But the point is I was never 100% financially secure and balanced. I had credit card debt, and yet I taught him how when you put your bills and your expenditures on a credit card, you only do so when you have enough money to pay it off at the end of the month. So even though I still hadn't gotten to that level of being debt free, I was teaching him those principles. And it was funny because then years later, when he became a financial advisor, he helped me to get debt free, never to have credit card debt again. So it was like I taught him something, and then he came back and was able to teach me more discipline. And to this day, it's so funny. You'll go somewhere with him, and he's lucky if he's got $5 in his wallet, because he'll pay for everything on a credit card. And he'll tell me, "Mom, you should never pay with cash, because you pay with credit card and pay it off." He goes, "Do you know that I earn like $7,000 at the end of the year in points on my credit card? That's like free money to me." Because I have so many points that I accrued by using my credit card. He says it's like someone giving me a free check. So yeah, it's amazing the wisdom behind it. Well, what I'd love to share with everyone is this cool journey that Dr. Michaela's on, where she's in a protocol stage right now of implementing, and she's got the copyright of these Daddy Rocks, and she's going to be hopefully marketing these. It takes a while to do marketing, and so we'd love to share her bio with you on the screen so that you know how to reach out to her and find her. This will be on the YouTube channel as well. And keep in touch with Michaela because she can coach you and help you with these theories. But the amazing thing is to keep her in the back of your mind. So when these Daddy Rocks hit the streets in the market, hopefully we'll find them on Amazon and maybe her own website. But she's just like in that beginning stages now, putting that marketing plan together. So it's amazing what you've done with children. It's amazing what you've done with mindfulness and these tools. And so parents, take heed to some of this and, create some of your own tools to use at home with your own children. The can is a great thing. The bears were like the cool thing, the signs. Things like this that will really, really help the children, Michaela.
Very much so. And the really cool thing is that parents can design their own tools to fit their specific environment. So their creativity is going to go wild.
Yeah. And kids
to create
love
things to
and kids love to help create them too. You can tell kids love my little granddaughter told me one day, because I buy her lots and lots at her birthday or Christmas, lots of art supplies. And she said to me, I just don't know what I'd do, Grandma, without art. She said, art is so helpful to me. And she just loves it. And they love it. They create and make things all the time. And children love creating. They love creating.
They do love creating.
So thank you so much for being on the show. And
you're welcome, Jill. Thank
before
you.
we close off, I'd love the audience to know that the Connection Show is always looking for amazing leaders, just like Michaela. So please go to our website, which is braveheartworkshops with an S on the end.com, and fill out our contact form so that I can reach out to you and schedule a time that works for us to be on the show. And for those of you who are listening, we would love for you to connect with us on Wednesday evenings. We meet every Wednesday night on a Zoom connection, and all you have to do again on the website is go to the podcast tab and sign up to be on the Zoom connection. Michaela jumps on almost every Wednesday night, and we just have amazing times. Last week, we played Family Feud, and then we have amazing topics that people love to learn about. So please join us on the Connection Zoom Gathering Tribe on Wednesday evenings. And Michaela, we hope that you'll keep coming on because we love seeing you, and we can't wait till your Daddy Rocks hit the market.
Thank you. I think dads are going to love it, and the children will too.
Thanks so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye now.
Bye now.
Thanks for joining us on The Connection Show. Let's connect now. We can dream together to renew, restore, and reconnect with wellness in our life and community. To enhance connection, join us in the Zoom Connection Gathering Tribe on Wednesday evenings. The Zoom Connection Gathering Tribe is an easy and practical way for everyone to meet up, gather, and feel welcomed and accepted. To join us, go to braveheartworkshops.com. Then click on the podcast tab and the Zoom Connection Tribe tab. On that page, go to the Facebook page called The Connection Show Gathering Tribe and register to join our Facebook group. We post secure passwords each week in the group so you can log in safely. We meet on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Mountain, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for 1.5 hours with great topics, laughter, and connection. See you on Wednesday evenings. Thanks for joining us and have a great day.